Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday number 48. Today's topic is, how will I know I am the permanent me? The questioner asks, when we do experience who we really are, how do we know? How do we know that it's not a more insidious ego version of I? Is there a different resonance in me when I am who I really am? Okay, good question. And the answer is, you're wanting to know the difference between who you really are as a permanent you and the ego version of you, which is always telling you lies and it's making you believe that it's the one in control all the time. So it sounds to me that you are being fooled by the ego, and you've made attempts to be in contact with the true you, but you keep getting messed up. I get that, and that happens to all of us. So the thing is, when you have a direct experience of who you really are, you'll know it. There'll be no doubt about it. And the question is, how do you know? Well, you'll know, particularly if you've done the work on really getting to know how your ego functions. So in other words, you have to do a fair bit of inquiry and observation to keep watching how the ego mechanism works. And remember that one who is able to watch your ego mechanism, who is that one? That one is free of the ego mechanism because it's able to watch the ego mechanism. So even as we're talking right now, there's an awareness that there's something called the ego mechanism that is trying to pull the wool over our eyes. We know that there is one, and you've been tricked by it too. So the way to really get that full discernment, that sense of like, yes, I know what the ego is and I know who I really am, that is a possibility only if you study the ego thoroughly, and you can do it in a very intense period of time, like on a retreat of some sort, like called the Enlightenment Intensive as an example. But you can also do it daily by observing the ego in all its doings every single day, like all your plans, all your hopes, all your expectations. The ego is serving you. Remember that, because you're the one who is actually the boss. But what happens and what deludes us is we somehow get into thinking that the ego is running us. And this is where your problem is. You don't know how the ego is running you. So you have to see how it operates. So you have to see its motivations. You have to see its intentions, its desires, its delusions. And the other thing you have to see is, what is the agreement you made with the ego upon your first trauma in life? Say you were 1 or 2 years old and something happened and you felt like you couldn't survive. And then you made a decision about how to be in life after that. It's actually at that point, somewhere when you were really, really young, that you made a decision to get on the back of the ego, and the ego said to you, follow me, I'll take care of you from now on. And if you do everything I tell you to do, then I'll protect you. So it was at that point that you lost the power of knowing who you are. It's hard as a child anyway. and then you gave it all to the ego. So the ego is constantly living up to its agreement with you. And you have to know this. So if you're going to study the ego, you have to know the first event where you agreed and what you agreed to do or be in order to survive. When you do all of this work, then it's going to be like a stripping effect. You're going to be stripping the ego of all its behaviors, how it functions. And then once it's completely stripped, then the ego is going to be bare and it's going to freak out. There's going to be a breakdown. The ego is going to break down, and you're going to feel it perhaps in your body, like you might get sick or faint, or you might get angry or resistant, or you might feel despondent. These are all the reactions of the ego being completely stripped. But it has to happen. If you really want to know who you are, you have to strip the ego completely. And once the ego has been fully stripped, then you can say, okay, ego, you go over here, you go over to this side, and now I'm going to meditate on who I really am, because what remains after the ego is stepping aside, once you've seen everything, you can just sort of say, okay, ego, you're going there. Then you go and look at what remains when the ego is not taking up all of that space in your head. When the ego's over there, what remains is who you are. That's how you know the difference between your permanent you and your ego, the insidious ego. So the other question you had was about the resonance. Is there a different resonance that takes place? Well, see, who you are doesn't really have a resonance. What's really occurring is a clarity of distinction, that the ego operates this way, and you, as your underlying reality, has no need to operate in any way. So one way you can know the difference is, if your mind is really busy and you're trying to figure out things, pretty sure that's the ego. Because you, as your underlying permanent self, have no need for desires, have no need for expectations. You have no need for getting somewhere, achieving something. You have no need for any of those things. Why? Because you are everywhere. Your ego is not everywhere. Your ego is an instrument onto which you try to get somewhere. But you have no need to get anywhere, because you know in the deepest place of your truth, you know you are everywhere. There's no need for anything. There's no attainment to get, because you are everything and everywhere. So there's no resonance as such. It's just a clarity, an absolute, doubtless clarity that you are the back, the source. You're the one who feeds the ego. You're the one who decides, okay, I'll use the ego here. But you're free. You don't care if the ego succeeds or not succeeds. That's the ego's business. If you're looking for success in something, guarantee that's ego. You do not care one way or the other, because you're just there all the time. You're the one who feeds the light to watch your ego. The one who's deciding to say, okay, I'm going to have a really good look at my ego right now. You're the one who feeds the light into your awareness. You're just background. You're not a doer. Only the ego is the doer. You're not a doer. You're just a being. You be. You are. You're spread out. You're everywhere. You're just always there no matter what goes on. You are the, okay, here's the other last little tidbit. There is a trio in this life. There is the experience, the experiencer, and the things that you are experiencing. And the ego takes a part in all of that. But you're the one who is giving the holding power or giving the light to have an experience. So you are the one who is experiencing all the things that are happening. You're that one who's having an experience. You're the one who's able to experience something, so you're the one experiencing. And you're all those things out there that you're having an experience of. So you are the background that feeds these three aspects. You're the experiencer, you're the experience, and you're the things that are being experienced. You have the power to hold all of that. So that's the difference. What is the resonance? There's no resonance. There's just an absolute clarity. And the resonance is when you're established in yourself, you don't care. You're good with whatever happens because it's all you everywhere. And that's it for today's Wisdom Wednesday, and see you next Wednesday for another Wisdom Wednesday. Bye for now.